Yeah, make another trip.
Question. My food has to be.
What I'd really like to do is honor our ancestors. It's so very, very important. I am one of the luckiest mothers in the world. I'll tell you that. There are 5, I believe, students here from Gavilan College. 4 or 5. And Kanyon went to Gavilan College, and then she got her BS degree from the Art Institute of California. She knows so much about art with social media. It's incredible. And she hacks my Facebook account. But would you honor us, Kanyon? And I am just so happy you're here. I really, really am. We are revitalizing our language. We have not had a Mutsun speaker since the 1930s that was fluent. And Kanyon has just completed an amazing coloring book with words in our language. Oh, yeah. That is absolutely spectacular. And it is, it's like there are so many words. Rama means water. But Rama is just not H2O. It's the sound of the water. It's the movement of the water. It's the creek that contains the water. They are one and inseparable. Rama. And there's not one word in the English language that describes what Rama is. And so, as I slowly regain and reconnect with some of my ancestors' verbiage, I realized no wonder I think that way. It's very interesting, the connection you have with a language that you don't know that you're learning. And it's like it unfolds right in front of you. And so I'm just really very, very proud. I am one of the luckiest mothers in the world. She keeps me on my toes. and then when I'm in front of the computer, Kanyon, how do you do this? And she moved out. She's moving to Gilroy. Oh, yeah. And I'm going, oh, man. And she said, yeah, Ma, you're sorry. It's bittersweet. It really is.
She's sad she's missing out on the free labor.
That's the bitter part.
Yeah. and so, again, welcome to Indian Canyon. And I think we're going to be eating. And then, what do you say? We go to the healing pole, the history of that, and then what?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Now, we're about to have our lunch, but we'd like to present some things to you in Kanyon.
Nice. I was born and raised here. The house was down here where the arbor is now. This was my mother's garage. We converted this over into a office, and we have an Ethno-Botanical Display that interns put together from UCSC, and it works. I like to get out of my mother's garage, but until I do, it serves its purpose. Water, as I brought to your attention before, Rama is extremely important. As a matter of fact, it is the blood of the earth. Rama. As a matter of fact, it is so important. Without water, we would not be here. It is the blood of the earth. When I say Pita Kanama Sikampatian, it's like the earth is my body, water is the blood, the air, the wind is the breath, and fire is the spirit. I give Kanyon a native name. It's Aruha Mukarama.
Aruha Mukurma.
Oh, she's taking the language. I have my pronunciation, and she's pronouncing it correctly. And I was not ever given a native name. And so I'm always gathering kindling. So I figure I'm like the kindling gatherer. because it is the kindling that starts the fire. And we have opened up my great-grandfather's trust allotment to all Indigenous people whom are in need of traditional lands for ceremony. My mother believed when ceremony stops, so does the earth. I too believe that. So as long as there's songs and dances and ceremonies taking place, it just allows everything alive that surrounds you to stay alive and to go forward. We have, I think, 5 sweat lodges here and about 40 different sites where people will commune with nature, totally independent of human life, for 4 days without eating. After the second day, your mind is altered. You're there crying for a vision. And usually it's amazing what you can see when you haven't eaten for 3 or 4 days. As a matter of fact, we had a couple of horses, and they roamed freely throughout the canyon. And when one gentleman came down from his vision quest, Ann-Marie, I have to tell you about my visions. They were so real. I had a horse come up to me, and I felt the muscles on his legs. And I couldn't tell him that was Lido. That's our horse. And there have been many people, the Maori people from New Zealand, when they come into Ohlone territory, that extends from San Francisco down to Big Sur, they'll come up to the canyon and ask for permission to come into Ohlone territory. And it's amazing. In the year 2005, I had 2 Maori elders that came up with an Ohlone gentleman, friend of ours, and his wife, and they asked for permission, and I said, we would love to welcome you ceremonially. And the Ohlone gentleman, he's a PhD. He's working on his dissertation at UC Berkeley right now. But he just gathered everything together, and I mean, we had sunrise ceremony at the aquatic park in San Francisco. This is 6 o'clock in the morning, and they come in their big waka. This is a huge traditional carved boat that is so incredibly beautiful. And they have light shining, and it's going like this, like this, like this. And then we go out in our little tule boats, to welcome them. And they brought their queen, and we had board of supervisors. Alan was there, and later, who's our vice governor?
Oh, Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom attended. I keep forgetting his name because we were talking, Tony Serter and myself were talking to him, and then somebody wanted to take a picture. And so he's tall. Okay, Tony and I are short. But what does he do? He gets up on the next step so that he's even taller. I go, look at the 2 little Indians. And I just, he knows the business, I'll tell you that. But anyway, so are you familiar with Maori culture at all? They roll their eyes, so all you see is white, then their tongue goes out, and I mean, it's intimidating. It really, really is. It's called a haka. They do their haka. And then we have California, we had some hooper dancers that were dancing, and they were just so, soft and smooth and gentle. And then they did another haka, and you have to step back because it's so intimidating. And a girlfriend of mine that was in the audience, she said, Ann-Marie, the Maori dancers, they are warriors. The California Indians, they were like the flower children of the 60s. And I said, I wonder why. Because there's such tremendous abundance here in California. We did not have to war for food. Whereas that was not the case in New Zealand. And so there's been Gwich'in people down here for ceremony, that they're up from Alaska, from Central America, South America, Sami. That was amazing. We're talking about the indigenous people of the Norwegian countries, blonde hair, blue eyes. They come out of our sweat lodge. It's just like our sweat lodges. We honor all four directions. We honor the natural elements. It's just like ours. And I'm thinking, with blonde hair and blue eyes, it just sounded so strange. You know, but it was the view. That was my problem. We are all related. We are all related. We do have common ancestors. It's the environment that dictates how we are going to look, how we're going to eat, how it is we're going to live. So, and you are but so product of all your ancestors. Thank your ancestors for you being here and being you right now, today. I am so grateful you are here. I really, really am. Getting back to water, the importance of water. I'm reading an amazing book right now. It's called The West Without Water. And it's written by two scientists, UC Berkeley and Stanford. And they took, I'm only about a quarter of the way through, but one part that I skipped because the person who gave it to me, a neighbor of mine, that I went through 18 months of litigation. Upstream neighbor, this is in the early 90s, he put a dam in the creek, Harlan Creek, and we need water too. But that 18 months of litigation, I cannot tell you how educational it was for me. My hair turned white. I had McKetchin, Brown, Doyle, and Anderson represent us. I had 4 attorneys working on this almost full time. It was incredible. And if you can prevent litigation, do it. Try just communicating. It makes things so much easier. It really does. But it took us 4 years before we were talking to each other. And we went out and had lunch. And he just said, well, you won, Ann-Marie, you won. I said, what did I win? The fact that you can't take all the water when there's downstream neighbors? What did I win? The settlement was he could not store water in the reservoir with the exception of from November 1st through April 1st, only if there was visible surface flow over the Spanish Grant Line. And I will say, he has honored it. But it's also a court order. But a couple weeks ago, he came up bearing gifts. And one of the gifts that he brought up was this book, The West Without Water. These two authors took a pencil, and the size of a pencil, less than the size of a pencil, and drilled it through a 5,000-year-old tree. The bristlecone pine. And they were able to determine how much water we received here in the West for the last 5,000 years. And last century, the 20th century, the 1900s, was the wettest year we have had in the last 5,000 years. And we think that's normal. No, we're in for drought, big time. We'll have 5, 10 years of drought and then a flood. We'll have 7, 11, 15 years of drought and then a flood. If the last 5,000 years continues, and you think, yeah, just maybe. So, the importance of water. It is the blood of the earth. I was a signatory of trying to, or getting before the voters, trying to prevent fracking from taking place in San Benito County. Because fracking, there again, takes a lot of water. Let's stop and think, how does this affect 7 generations in the future? And I have talked to both. No, there's still one professor I've yet to talk to. But Phil's class and Kathy Wallace's class, we need volunteers to get signatures, but they must be signatures from San Benito County residents. But if you want to help us, you can get extra credit. But I would like to introduce a neighbor of mine, Sarah. Sarah, maybe you can share.
All right. And first, let me say thank you to Ann-Marie and Kanyon for inviting us here today for your stories and your wisdom. Very much appreciated. And I'm Sarah Steiner. I'm with a group that just recently formed locally called San Benito Rising. This is San Benito County. And what the group got together to do is
Can everyone hear her? Can you hear her? Good. Okay.
What the group formed was specifically to be a voice where there have not been voices to protect our water, our land, our air, our health, to stop the cycle of climate change, to reduce carbon emissions, and specifically what we're looking at are the deleterious effects of fracking. So we all know normal oil drilling. Well, fracking is extreme extraction. They go down much deeper, they can go horizontally, they use steam. On the low side, one well needs over 100,000 gallons of water. This can go up to 1 million gallons of water per well, per drilling. Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, has thousands and thousands of these fracking wells. One site might have hundreds. So the impact to our water is significant. So not only are they utilizing the water, but in order to fracture the soil and the rocks, in order to fracture it, they use chemicals. Chemicals like benzene and toluene. And there's a long list of many chemicals that are not even being disclosed. So the water goes down, water comes back. The same water comes back with all those chemicals, now as toxic waste. Not only do the water come back with the chemicals and the toxic waste, it also brings back latent radioactivity from underneath. So you have hyper toxic water. So what do they do with the water? We don't want it being transported, hundreds of thousands of gallons being transported all over our roads and highways. So wells are created, and they're called deep injection wells. That dirty water goes back in the ground. But it's not sequestered the way it was before. And as a result, there's many counties throughout the United States that have seen neighboring clean water contaminated permanently with these chemicals. They've seen their air, the air quality go down. Benzene levels in the air higher than normal. There's lawsuits occurring currently of areas where there have been higher rates of birth defects they feel due to benzene emissions in the air. So you've screwed up your water, you've used far too much water than you should, the air quality is bad, and now you're bringing up more oil for us to burn and create even further carbon emissions. So what our goal is here, San Benito County has certain advantages to the people and certain advantages to the oil company, the companies that are here. It's small. There is not a large, there's not a large population of activists in this county. There's not a large population. So we're easily railroaded. The county does not have a lot of money to defend itself in major lawsuits. So what we've decided to do, what did I hear? We have a professor here of power and politics. Amy? Yes, that's what we're doing. We're doing power and politics. San Benito Rising, this group got together to decide that the people are going to make a vote. The people are going to lead where our elected leaders have failed us. So, as Ann-Marie said, she has signed on to a ballot initiative for the county, for San Benito County, that will state there will be no extreme oil extraction, no fracking in any of the unincorporated areas. Also, we've included there will be no oil drilling of any kind in any rural residential areas. So the way the ballot process works is we've submitted this to the county. They go through a review process. And if anything doesn't seem on the up and up, they give it back to us. So it's been submitted. We will get their approval on March 22nd. Then what our goal is to have petitions circulated and signed by registered voters of San Benito County. We're pretty fortunate because we only need 1,600 valid signatures. As I say, we're a really small, unpopulated county. So to protect ourselves from bad signatures or whatever, mistakes, errors, our goal is 3,200 signatures. So I've been invited here to ask if we have any volunteers that would like to help us in this effort. San Benito County will be the first county in California for the people to stand up and ban the process of extreme hydraulic fracturing. Standing right behind us, our group has already been, we have been contacted by Butte County, Monterey County, Santa Barbara County. They're lining up right behind us. Little San Benito County is going to lead the state in clean energy, clean water, clean air.
Nice.
So I've got information here if anybody would like it. I did notice that there is not a specific contact information, but we do have a website. If you can remember San Benito Rising, perhaps if you just Google San Benito County and fracking, San Benito Rising would come up. You can contact us through that. If anybody is so moved, I've got a sign-up sheet right here. So what we're going to do, again, as I mentioned, we should get approval for the language of the initiative on March 22nd. There will be some training to go on, and then preceding that, we will probably be working weekends and pulling in our signatures. The only requirement we have for people who are gathering signatures is that they are a registered voter. But if anybody's not a registered voter, boy, you really should be, and we'll help you with that.
And you get extra credit.
Very good. So just seek me out. I got the paper. I got the pen. We'd love to have you with your help.
And she's a neighbor of mine.
It's right over the hill.
Literally. Literally. I think it's Saturday, March 29th and 30th. Getting old sucks. I didn't say that. But I can see April 5th, April 6th, April 12th, and April 13th. And so if you can volunteer, this is just for like 3 hours. In front of, you'll be designated different places. It'd be greatly appreciated. And then you can come up here. And I'll cook you dinner.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What do you suggest? Let's go to the healing pole.
Also, don't forget to put your name and a little note in here before we leave. But we are going to. Oh, Kathy? Yeah?
I didn't get that with the date, so I just did a regular
Sure.
sign up.
Of course.
So that's
A couple people can help. Kathy and Ed take things to the car, and the rest of us are going to go.
Down to the healing pole.
Try not to talk.
It's okay. I'm gonna. It's a B-roll.
Okay.
So I'm gonna overlay it with sound.
This is like instilled in us like the history of life flying for your. I'm sorry if I get this wrong. Like your ancestors and the sport of the creator.
Other than getting the grapevine, and that's Ann-Marie's neighbor, and we want to help her maintain good relations with her neighbors, and we want to be able to come back again, right? So we're all contributing to that by driving to those. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for that.
Sunrise ceremony this morning in San Jose, and thank you for coming up, Lloyd. An incredibly beautiful human being. And so, this healing pole, actually, you can see on the sides, there are 2 holes here and 2 holes up at the top. A rope went through these and connected with another Alaska yellow cedar, and with another Alaska yellow cedar, and it held the ships apart at Port Chicago. That had all the explosives on them, and it was extremely dangerous. So it was all the black soldiers that worked there. And then there was an explosion. Several hundred people were killed. I had one gentleman, Port Chicago's north of San Francisco, and I had one gentleman who lived in south San Francisco. And he just said, I could remember it, I heard it. And then, I think we may have a car coming.
They all got like court-martialed because they refused.
Is that
to work.
Kathy?
Right. They all openly refused military orders, and then I think they all put them on a.
Oh, in a white van.
I don't know. I took a. Only one of them.
And when the explosion took place, the black soldiers were ordered to pick up the limbs of their comrades, to pick up their arms and the head and the leg. And there was quite a number that refused. And they said, well, if you don't, you will be court-martialed and sent to prison. Some of them backed down, but there's quite a number that did not back down.
Yeah.
And those who did not back down was given 15 years in prison. There was such a tremendous public uproar that worked, and so their sentences was dismissed. So it is a healing pole. It was the start of desegregation here in the state of California. That was during the Second World War. That's not that long ago. But it slowly we're evolving to realize that we are all related. Not only to each other, but to all the life that surrounds you. From my perspective, I become a part of. When I see the wind go through the branches of the trees and the leaves start to shimmer and start to move like they're doing now, it's responding for me acknowledging this cottonwood tree right here. You can see very few other leaves are moving, but just this tree right here. There are times when Kanyon sings a grandmother's song. It's always the second verse. You'll see some of the branches acknowledging. It's just, take a look with another lens, and you'll be amazed. Otherwise, you're stuck with NDD. You know what that is? What? Nature deficit disorder. You got it. Yes. Cleveland College, you rock. Okay. This is my mother's spirit rock. And the shells that are hanging here I get a number of students that come up and we'll work on what has to be stream restoration or clearing of branches or putting things in the burn pile or whatever it may be. And then afterwards we collectively will take some sinew and connect one abalone shell with another abalone shell. And each shell is a prayer. And I'll never forget this one woman. She was going to Gavilan. And no, I'm sorry. She lived in Hollister and she was going to San Francisco State University. And she said, my father retired, but in order for me to go back to school, he went back to work. And she said, sometimes it gets hard. My prayer that I put into this abalone shell is, when it gets so hard, don't quit. And it was months later. Every time I come by here, it was like I'd hear that prayer. When things get so hard, don't quit. And it was just, whatever I was working on, I said, well, we're going to finish that. We're going to do that. Don't quit. That's so very important. I want to share Tony Shane Eagleton, the artist who carved this DNA. This is the DNA of all life, the double helix. And his father was English, and his mother was from Fiji. When they got married, they went to his mother's village. The Fijians did not accept her husband. And he said, it's okay, we will go to England. And in England, his wife was not accepted. So they ended up in New Zealand. And that's how he learned how to carve from the Maori people. And when he was in his 50s, everything goes full circle, but damn, this is a long time. His mother's village asked him to come to Fiji to teach their young how to carve. So it truly is a healing pole. It did go full circle. But like 4 decades? Damn. And so I love my mom's spirit rock, and I can still feel the prayers that many of the students put in the abalone shells. The smaller ones are farmed ones. I put a call out for abalone shells, and it's amazing how things work. 3 abalone farms bought literally thousands of the abalone shells up, and we've used them as honoring gifts, you know, so they're traveled all over the world. And the larger ones, I do monitoring and welcoming to Ohlone territory and ceremony for reinterment because of the development, the number of our ancestors that are disturbed. My mother believed that when a burial is disturbed, the spirit of that individual is wandering until that individual is reinterred ceremonially. And so I was down to my last abalone shell, and usually I leave the abalone shell in with the burial. And it was a grandmother one, it was so big. And I said, it's the last one that I have. And I almost couldn't let it go. I said, come on, Ann-Marie, you can do it. And I let the abalone shell in with the burial that was being reinterred. And when I got home, on my porch was 2 huge cardboard boxes full of abalone shells. You know, it's amazing how things just go out and they connect. So the importance of putting out good thoughts. I can't tell you how important it is. It really is. We have quite a number of different ceremonies here. This year, as Kanyon mentioned, we are having the Two-Spirit ceremony. We're having our normal, it's a fundraiser, our California Indian storytelling event. an Indigenous gathering. But we're also having, for 8 years, we had the bear dance, hosted the bear dance, California Indian Bear Dance. And this year we're bringing it back. And I'm so happy, thanks to Lloyd and some of our other Indigenous friends is making it happen. And it's a healing dance, and it is powerful. Really, it's real healing. It's amazing. And last year we hosted the Naraya. It's a ghost dance.
Grandchild.
Kanyon calls it the grandchild.
Not allowed to be called the ghost dance.
Okay, what it is, Clyde Hall, he's a recovering attorney. He is also the judge for the Shoshone-Bannock Reservation. Absolutely brilliant man, I will tell you. Very much a critical thinker. And he had a vision and a dream, and he wanted to bring the ghost dance back. And in his dreams, everything came with such clarity that he went to New York and they had a ghost dance in New York. And then it was, next one was in Montana. And then the elders on the reservation just really slapped his hand and said, no, this is our ceremony. We don't want you taking them out all over, the ghost dance out all over the place. He said, okay. We will not call it the ghost dance. What we will do is call it
Naraya, a dance for all people.
Naraya, the dance for all people. And he brought it up here last year, the first time in the last 22 years that it's ever been an Indian country. It was amazing. In the arbor, there were 3 flags, a green one and I think a white and red one, or a white and black flag.
Blue, green, and purple.
Pardon me?
Blue, green, purple.
Blue, green, and purple. The green was in the middle. and they were about this big, all 3. And when they held the bundle up to the west, the green flag just kept dancing and dancing and moving and dancing. And it was so, I'd never experienced anything like that. I just thought that it connected. It did connect because the other 2 were perfectly still. Same size, same weight, just different colors. And it was the middle one. And then there was a tree in the center of the arbor. And on the tree there were feathers hanging from different areas. And I'm sitting next to Clyde, and Clyde says, now that's spirit. I took a look, and here's this feather going around and around and around. And all the others were perfectly still. And then that one stopped, and then this one over here started going around and around and around. It was incredibly amazing. I said, that is just the ancestral spirits of this canyon is dancing because of this ceremony taking place right here, right now. And it was incredibly beautiful. But there's a number of different ceremonies. We've opened up this, as I mentioned before, to all Indigenous people whom are in need of traditional lands for ceremony, and we don't charge. It's just here, I feel so fortunate that we can share. And I'm living my dream. I really am. Because the American Indian did not get the right to practice their religion freely until 1978 with the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. What's wrong with that? Think about it. What the hell is wrong with that? I mean, I remember being taught in school that people came to the U.S. of A. for what? Freedom of religion? And the American Indian didn't get the right until 1978? And what's really amazing, the number of Native Americans that is in our prison system. I had a girlfriend that did a documentary, Behind Iron Doors.
The Iron Lodge.
Oh, the Iron Lodge. Thank you, Kanyon. I was close. I was close.
It was a lodge behind the iron doors, so it compact the words.
Yeah, I'm not far off. But it was about sweat lodges in prisons. And the number of people, she goes, Ann-Marie, so many of the prisoners do not want the sweat lodge to be shown in the documentary. 90% of the population don't know what a sweat lodge is. How can I do a documentary without showing what a sweat lodge looks like? And I said, how old are the prisoners that are objecting? And all in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I said, they are the individuals that have been in there for quite some time, and when they did ceremony, they had to do it underground because of the fact that we did not get the right to practice our religion freely until 1978. Something's very wrong about that. What's also interesting, all of you are going to be in positions, very, very important positions in your lifetime. And I would like to make a request of you. And that is, when you have to make a decision or write a law or be involved with lawmaking, the American Indian's perspective and point of view is not included. Do you mind, when you're in that position, to think about us and our perspective? And to include the local indigenous people to be a part of this lawmaking policy that you may be involved in? Would you do that? Yes. Would you do that? Yes. I can't hear you. Yes. One more time. Keep that in mind, because when I was going through 18 months litigation, we were giving consideration of adjudicating the water, so much acre foot per domestic use, per whatever, an acre per acre of an orchard or of a vineyard, or per acre of water. But you know what? I mean, we could get the water adjudicated for our domestic use, but not any of the wildlife was included. Not any of the life that surrounds us was included. We need water for our ceremonies. That doesn't make money. So, no water is allocated for that. When you are in positions of making law or policy making, involve the local indigenous people so you get their perspective, so their perspective can be included in that decision. Got it?
Yes.
Yes.
Love it. Okay. So what do you suggest? We go down?
But just take a moment in this beautiful place here and go ahead and touch that pole and remember what Ann-Marie was talking about. How's that sound? Great, go for it.
Should we have Lloyd share some words?
If you want.
I mentioned we have about 5 or 6 sweat lodges here in the canyon. And they're all above the ground, with the exception of our traditional sweat lodge. For 25 years, we've had a traditional sweat lodge here. It's subterranean. And basically, a sweat lodge is where you go in to purify yourself. As a matter of fact, we have an Ohlone elder here. He's looking the other way. That is a lodge leader. And every lodge is different. It's all predicated on the sweat lodges. But perhaps, do you mind sharing what you do when you lead a launch, Lloyd.
I'm going to sing a couple of songs before I start.
Okay. Lloyd is going to sing a couple songs before he starts.
We're going to use that can, you can use that. We call the sweat lodge our mother's womb. Because when we are born, or when our mother is carrying us, we are in a peace. We are in a darkness, but a peaceful darkness. Of security. We are secured in her womb. So when we go into the sweat lodge, this is what we say. We are going back into our mother's womb to bless ourselves, to pray for healing. You go into sweat lodge, it's not, people say, well, that's a sauna. No, it's a prayer. It's a ceremony. And you go in there and you give thanks. You have water, you have the stones, my grandfather's stones. The stones get heated up. Some of them will get real big and get heated up.
And they're red and hot.
And they're put inside into the pit right there. And those stones, these stones are the oldest living creations here on this Mother Earth. Those stones, they don't have no eyes, but they see everything. They don't have a mouth, but they'll tell you things if you listen. They don't have any ears, but they hear everything that you say. And through those stones, our prayers go up out of the sweat lodge. It's a healing. You know, you come in, if you have a sickness, it doesn't have to be a physical sickness, because a lot of us don't have a physical sickness. We all have a mental sickness. I do. Everybody does. We are not perfect. We are not 100% healed. As we walk on this earth, you know, we have to give thanks. How many times when you walk by something, you see a creation, you give thanks? How many times do you offer a prayer for someone who is hurting? Not someone that you know that is hurting, but someone you see and you don't know. But he's hurting. The homeless people. We have one that comes around here. What's it, Nick? Is it Nick that comes around here, the big tall guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes around here and he come out of anywhere. I saw him one time at Moss Landing. But he's always praying. He gives thanks for everything. Every day you wake up, you give thanks. You know, I get up and I wake up, I walk outside and I give thanks to the grandfather. You know, to all the creations. You know, bring some sage, offer some tobacco. You know, but yeah, it's very strong ceremony. I've seen people come in there and really heal good. You know, it depends. If you're true, if you believe in it, and you go in there, you don't go in there to play. You don't go in there to, you know, whatever. You go in there for one purpose, and that's to pray for healing and to give thanks for all the creations. Because that sweat lodge is, the fire comes from the tree people, the stone people, the water, the offering that we put on there. Sometimes it's cedar, sometimes it's, you know, whatever we have, bare root, we offer it under the stones, and that fills you in. We tell you, go in, cleanse yourself, breathe that in. And then when they shut that door, it's total darkness in there. That's why I say you're going back into your mother's womb. It's total darkness, but it's safe. And when you're in there, nothing bad can happen to you. You hear stories about things that happen, but those things that happen to those people happen because of their inability to run a sweat or their greed. Because we don't charge for a sweat. We don't charge for nothing. We do everything because that is what we are put on this earth to do. We are put here as caretakers. We don't own anything. I tell them, I'm just a caretaker. You don't own your mother, you know. And then they say, well, you sold your land. No, we don't sell our mother. So how can you say that? Like Tony says, there's only 3 ways you can get something. It's either given to you, it's given to you, you steal it. Oh, there was another one that he says. Anyway, there's 3 reasons. You know, you can't, you know, you stole it, you know, it was given to you, or you killed for it, or something like that. But that's what happened. We never gave up our land. Where we're from Carmel, is actually our traditional land, the village of Ichlat, which is right there along the Carmel River. And, you know, they keep us under thumb. They took our land. Why? Well, have you ever, any of you been up to Carmel? Looked at that area? The resources that were there prior to all those houses and everything. The resources that were all around here. You know, that's what it was. It was greed. They wanted that. You know why? Because they could make money on it. So that's just what they did. When that Dawes Act came into effect, that's what it was about. To steal our land. And genocide. Because they say you had to be over there and you had a certain amount of land. When they did that, they allotted certain people, families, just so much land. But once those families started expanding, what happened to the land? It started growing smaller and smaller. So it's greed that keeps us, you know, these people from doing right. What I mean by right is to acknowledge the wrong that they have done. And they still don't. Not to the people that are not federally recognized. Even the ones that are recognized don't get full acknowledgement or get a full, you know, apology, I guess you would say. Well, they don't acknowledge the wrong that they did. And they did, and they're still doing it.
So what I'm hearing you say is, you want truth in history? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Can't we get it?
Not just his story?
No, not his story, our story.
Every lens has to be acknowledged.
Right.
Every lens, not just his story.
Yeah. You read about what they teach you in school. What did they teach you in school about indigenous people or native people?
Who have been here for what, 12, 14, 16,000 years, depending on which archaeologist you're talking to?
And what did they tell you? Oh, they're savages. Oh, wow. You know, when that guy that was lost, you know, they celebrate his birthday all the time.
Which one?
The one that was lost over on the East Coast.
1492.
1492, that guy. Anyway,
That fool sailed the ocean
Thinking
blue.
of all the people that are lost today, right now.
when Columbus discovered this Turtle Island, so to speak, he didn't discover it. There was people already here. But what happened was, when he got here, he saw all these people running around, these indigenous people. He seen them, and they was always praying, or it had a tobacco or something. They were praying all the time. And you know, because when he wrote in his diary, or whatever they called it, that ship's log diary, he put, and he wrote it in Spanish, "Encontré gente indios." People said, well, he encountered Indians. No, that wasn't what it was. If you look at it right and you interpret it the way it's supposed to have been, encontré gente, he saw people, godly people here. But if they would have acknowledged that, the Pope or whoever it was back there, see, they wouldn't have been able to come in and conquer this land, so to speak, because that's what they were given. They were given the right to go and conquer heathen lands. So that we were heathens, savages. But now you know a little bit of our history.
You know what's really quite surprising? The number of people that come up here that will say, they'll bring their genealogy, and that will say, Ann-Marie, my mother told me I was Mexican. My grandmother told me that I was Mexican. But my grandmother's sister, my great aunt, told me that we were Ohlone, right here from this mission of San Juan Bautista, which each and every one of you was at today. And I said, and she brings out this big binder with her genealogy in it. I said, but slow down. There is good reason, perhaps. And that is in the 1850s and 1860s, to say you were Indian was suicidal. In 1854 alone, this government put out in excess of $1.4 million. $5 a head, 50 cents a scalp. That also paid for the guns and for the gunpowder and for the food for the professional Indian killers. If you're a Native woman, you watch your husband get killed, your 2 sons get killed, you're going to tell your daughter, say you are Mexican, just for sheer survival. I grew up here in this canyon. My mother was an extremely proud woman, and I thought we were the only Indians in Hollister. But in 1972, when the California Lands Claim Settlement was distributed, which amounted to $668 for all this entire state of California, outside of 4 different main reservations, there was 178 Ohlone descendants living in San Benito County at that time. And it's really quite surprising. This has happened to me probably at least a half a dozen times. And they've all been women that have done their research. Mm-hmm. They've all been women. And so it's, I say, well, start connecting with your ancestors. Start with a sweat lodge. Start with a powwow. Start with just connecting. And in the sweat lodge, it can get very, very hot. But you really are purifying your body with all the toxins. It can, trust me. The sweat lodge that we had here, this is the same area that my ancestors had a sweat lodge on, and it was built 25 years ago, and it just basically was starting to deteriorate. And Kanyon said, well, Mom, I will replace it. And she is working on it. Perhaps you might want to share, Kanyon?
Well, I think, I mean, that's the original we put back out. Badger Mason's still the same. Huh? Badger Mason's still the same.